Alright, welcome to my shaky cam vlog. So my fiancée had finally started her vacation, so she took the train down to the city of Xinyu where I went to pick her up. So we were pretty stoked to be reunited, the whole clan, for the rest of the holiday. And then I had done my recon during the day, so there was only about an hour before nightfall, so we just went through the spot that I had found, which was a farmhouse under construction, so we could just drive in and be sheltered from the rain. So soon after, it became very dark, and then we just lit a little campfire and went to sleep. The next morning, we went to the city of Xinyu. She had to go to the hospital to do one of those quick COVID tests because she had just come from another province. And then we just drove around a little bit, and it had stopped raining for a little bit, so then we just went around this lake and walked around, got some exercise, enjoyed the nice views. So there was not a single other person there except a man fishing. There's pretty much always people fishing around those creeks or lakes or streams in China, even though they don't really seem to ever catch anything. Anyway, so I also checked the real estate there. Not sure if the real estate boom will ever happen in this rural part of Jiangxi province. And afterwards, we just kept going west with the Wugong Shan mountain range destination in mind. Then we arrived at some rundown town. It was time for lunch, so we just went to get some noodles. And the guy was making his own booze there, and when I just gazed at his big jars, he just offered me a cup. This shit was foul. It was maybe 50% alcohol. So needless to say, I wasn't the one driving for the rest of the way. So we could finally see the mountain range approaching, slowly but surely. It was too late, though, obviously, to go hike the mountain, so we've just found a spot, and we just set up our camp there, in one of those tourist parkings. And the view was pretty damn spectacular, if I dare say so. I had brought my tarp with me, the tarp from our tent, and I tried to fasten it to make some kind of covered shelter, so we could cook our meals and just sit around there. It didn't really work that well, but it's fine because it didn't really rain very heavily. In fact, most of the time it was Snoop Dogg's favorite weather. And then the dog and I went downhill a little bit. We went to check out a village. He got acquainted with the locals there who didn't really seem too stoked to have him around. In fact, some of those dogs there, they were like, "Hey, little city dog, we don't take kindly to your type around here." And then I climbed back up and I sat around for a little bit and I ate some of those sweet potato chips that the girlfriend had brought over, along with a can of beer. They were pretty nice. They were showing some possible uses for that beer in the back. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known. And then the next morning, what is that abomination? Is it an art museum? No, it's the visitor center for the tourist spot of Wugong Shan, which was completely barrenly empty, even though it's supposed to be high season. I think you know why. So in fact, there was not a single person in the bus other than us two. In fact, most people there seemed to be pretty bored. And we took the cable car up for part of the way in, and it was a bit disappointing at first because there was pretty much no view at all. It was very, very, very foggy. And we were not out of the woods yet because even though we saved a bit of time with the cable car, we still had thousands of steps up the mountain. So it was for hours and hours. It took maybe 3 hours of constant climbing in those rock steps. And finally we got above the fog line, so that was pretty amazing. In fact, it barely even looked like we were on a mountain. It almost looked a bit more like we were on the shores of some ocean or something like that, like on an island. It was some pretty sick views. And then one of the champions in charge decided to put a bunch of speakers there playing the sappiest, shittiest, most annoying music possible. So, I don't know, some people just hate peace and quiet, I guess. And I won't comment further or make any generalization, but it did taper my enthusiasm a little bit. We made it to the summit where it was very, very windy and we took in the views and then we started descending. And that's when something pretty crazy happened. Like in hindsight, I don't know how much of a close call it was, but what happened is the dog was running ahead and I started hearing some monkey noises coming from the forest. So I just ran down and I grabbed the dog just as those two baboons came out on the path and stared us down. And I wasn't dumb enough to pull out my phone because they would have snatched it, almost certainly. But then I made this artist's rendition. So one of them jumped on the ramp and he made his way to us and he was baring his teeth and lunging at us and he seemed extremely angry. Like you don't have to be a primatologist or an animal specialist to know that those monkeys were pissed off that we were encroaching on their territory. And the other one was blocking our way. Like I would move a bit left, he would also move left. I would move right, he would, again, like move right, follow me. And what happened is, I'm not exactly sure because I didn't want to stare at them too much and make eye contact. But there was a third monkey, like down the hill, cradling a baby. And they probably smelled a dog coming down. And even though he's kind of small and goofy looking, well, he's still a predator by nature. So the monkeys, like, they probably just panicked. And also, it happened just as they were crossing the path because apparently the monkeys stayed deep in the forest most of the time. Like, that's what people at the visitor center told us later. So I told the girlfriend, yeah, don't do any, like, brusque move. Don't do anything that can be seen as too aggressive. But just get your umbrella and like open it slowly, and that seemed to confuse them long enough just for us to inch our ways past and get out of Dodge. So yeah, that was a bit scary. Don't fuck with primates, man. But anyway, so we still, of course, made our way down. Obviously, I wouldn't be here narrating otherwise. I made it, and at the visitor center, they interviewed me for their TikTok chain. And then we went to soak in the hot tubs, like in the hot springs. That was blissful, absolutely blissful. Then we had dinner. Dinner was a bit ordinary. Like most of the food we eat in that part of China was amazing, but this one was a bit, bland. But it's okay, I guess. Could have been worse. And the next day we just kept going. We had a long drive to do, like about 600 or 700 kilometers north. What do you point up? We crossed into Hubei province. We had lunch at a highway rest stop, hardly anything glamorous. And then we just kept going north and then east to the eastern Hubei countryside, which was pretty picturesque. Again, very rugged, shrouded in fog everywhere, and we found this house under construction. We gathered a bunch of wooden scraps and lit a little campfire, and then what was bound to happen happened. So there's a car that pulled over, and two men came out with flashlights, and they were like, "Hey, what are you doing in my house?" And they didn't really seem particularly happy with us being there. They didn't really seem to even like understand what the hell we were doing there, but yeah, we had to relocate. So we just drove a little bit further down the road and we parked in front of one of those public toilets, so at least we could brush our teeth quite easily in the morning. And it had been raining for like 4 or 5 days in a row at this point, so it wasn't really that fun. Like we couldn't really do anything outdoorsy like that was really worth it. So then we decided to cut our trip short, and instead of staying a few more days in Hubei, we just went home. But of course, one doesn't come to Hubei province without eating a steaming bowl of zheganmian, which is one of my absolute favorite noodle dishes in all of China. Some kind of dry sesame spicy noodles that people eat for breakfast for whatever reason. So in fact, They were so good. I had a second serving. They were cheap as hell too, like 5 yuan, like $1 per bowl. And then we had about 600 or 700 kilometers home, and we just did it in one go.
Take the bridge and that bridge there.
Scratch the windows.
So that's it. 4,300 kilometers driven around 5 Chinese provinces. So driving around China is pretty fun. Getting the driver's license was a bit of a pain, but I'm glad I did. And also, I'm glad we decked out the car with a bed in the back. So in the near future, we're going to do a video where we're going to present the car and show exactly how we did it. So in the meantime, you can share the video with your friends if you think they might be interested. And thanks for stopping by.